family member interred in one of those tombs.
Oh, so it's definitely cheaper than...
Right. So say you do 100 interments for $600 a pop, you're only talking about 65. Right?
These are the Cato and Kurt
Henry
Kuehl.
Cadell and Kurt Cole. Henry Cadell, I actually met him, and none of his family members are interred. Mr. Kurt Cole is a Jackson Square artist, and his claim to fame, painting clowns. Now, I don't know what kind of clowns that got painted, but they must have been selling like hotcakes, because he could afford to build a $30,000 tomb. He placed perpetual care on it, and he built that thing not just for himself and his family, but for any other Jackson Square artist who can't afford to be interred anywhere else. That fit the criteria to be buried in the cemetery, they can be interred there with him.
That is so neat.
Yeah. Matter of fact, one of his good friends, Samuel Walter Feldman, died later the same year after him. He was placed in an apartment until he could be placed in a tomb with him. And he was interred everything.
So a year and a day, and then he was stuck in there in the whole, by the sexton with the whole...
That's right. Opening the thing up and putting it back in and closing it back up. Now, what I wanted to point out, finish saying was that, where is that? Where was that? We were talking about
How much those tombs cost?
Yes. It only costs you $600 a pop. Say for a regular funeral in the United States today, to buy a plot and have an interment, that's usually somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000. For 100 interments at that price, you're talking about $750,000 to $1 million. Look at the cost effectiveness. Plus, I told you about this one square block, how many people interred. Look at the efficient use of land space compared to these things. With those two in mind, there's actually a couple of people that have come to the cemetery from different states. One guy who owns cemeteries in Michigan, Illinois, another guy from up in Washington State. They're trying to duplicate this process around the United States and sell it to the world as green burials, which would be very, very smart because it's an efficient use of land space. You don't have to keep building, taking up land for cemeteries, and cemeteries is just going to be used to just hold the remains of people forever. And what else I'd like to point out while we're over here, and let's go see the Voodoo King and we'll work our way back around. But it doesn't feel right. I think it's just thinking.
Okay.
You can feel what we're going to do right now. You'll feel what we're going to do. That's a definite sign of the business. This gentleman right here, Isidore Barberin, he was the musician, the drummer, that traveled the world, a guy by the name of Louis Armstrong, playing jazz. His uncle, Lionel Barberin, was the drummer that traveled the world with a guy by the name of Kid Creole, playing jazz. And one of the Barberin descendants travels the world with a guy by the name of Harry Connick Jr., playing jazz, but he does not play drums, he plays another instrument. The Barberins were always accomplished jazz musicians ever since the Kid Creole days. And this type of mausoleum right here, this is called the Sacred Society. A burial association or burial society is where groups of families put their money together. They can purchase a piece of land and build these things as tall as necessary to accommodate all the families. This one accommodates 18 different families. Half of those families were Barberins, half were other family names. The other families stopped making use of their burial slots. The Barberins bought them all out. This then became the Barberin family team. Then the Barberins negotiated with the New Orleans Musicians Association and turned into a movement together. 10 months before Hurricane Katrina, they put a beautiful wrought iron cross up in the chimney on the top of the street that had a beautiful blue acrylic musical note right in the center of it. After the hurricane, I did not see the cross, and I then, when I got home, after 4 months of curiosity, got the best of it, I clammed up on the top of this thing to see what was going on with it. The cross got struck by lightning, and it didn't make it through the hurricane. I don't know what happened to it, but it got struck off by lightning. Yeah? So let's proceed on this way.
Wow.
So I guess maybe a cross stamp belong on the top of this tomb, huh?
You know, actually,
this cemetery is actually a lightning magnet.
That's what this
because
is.
of all the old cast iron steel. I mean, concrete. How y'all doing today?
So does this also have an ossuary that they shove the bones off? And
Yes,
so
they shove
the
the
the bones from the different families are mixed together.
Yes, but see how long those things are? They pretty much just go to the back. Now, there is a small pit area below where they can fall down if necessary, but those things are so long that they just keep pushing the bones to the back and keep pushing them to the back. But for the most part, that can pretty much hold it. But the ossuary is kind of in the back, and it does drop a little bit below. But it's mostly in the back.
Huh.
And you can see a better example of the plaster and stuff. You see that little spider right there? That is a brown recluse. Those little suckers are extremely dangerous right here.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, they're extremely dangerous. If one of those suckers bites you, they inject a poison in you that will start to kill the tissue, and the tissue will eventually, the poison will keep seeping in and keep seeping in until it hits the nerves,
Where is it?
and it can cause extensive nerve damage.
Let's see.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have to keep a watchful eye out for those things going around these things. And incidentally, if you're Catholic and you want to be interred in this, the oldest cemetery in New Orleans, we still have space available for sale. And no, I do not get a commission on the sale.
What's the offer price on that?
Now that's a good question. I think it just depends on how much space you actually want and where it's located and how big of a mausoleum you want to build. This family here just had this done 3 years ago. This big one right here. And I call it a double wide because it has 2 burial slots in it. This something here can hold remains of up to about 450 family members.
But there's no nameplate on it, is there?
No nameplate on the front. They're waiting on some special marble that's coming from Italy. They're going to do the family name on the front. Looks like the name is pretty good.
So you think these actions never rain?
They did some of the placards and stuff.
So what's up with these? All these smarties?
This is the voodoo king of New Orleans, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Jean-Claude Dupré. Yeah, this is the guy that taught Marie Laveau all the mysticism and spirituality that we today call voodoo. His grandfather was from the western part of Africa, from the country of Ghana. And there the Yoruba people practiced the spirituality and mysticism that was in Western Africa called Vodun. And that mysticism is based on the same tenets or principles as the Hebrew mystic book of Kabbalah and Egyptian books of the dead. Except in Western Africa, they had no written language. They passed it on as an oral tradition, with the father always having a responsibility to teach his eldest son. Jean-Claude Dupré's grandfather taught his son. His son was captured from Ghana and brought as a slave to Haiti. There the name was changed from Vodun into Voodoo, and that guy took on the name of his master, which was Mr. Dupré. That Mr. Dupré then had 16 children. Jean-Claude here was his oldest son. He was taught for 17 years before being sold to a master here in New Orleans to become a house servant. The employee that mysticism served his master so well, on his master's death, his master gave him his freedom. It was at that time because he had no children. He wanted to open up a school to teach others this mysticism and spirituality. Well, these guys were not just the spiritual leaders of the community, they were also the healers of their community. And that's actually how Miss Laveau ties into it. See, Marie Laveau by profession was a hairdresser. And hairdressers here in the United States in the 1800s also acted as healers. Initially, Miss Laveau had no knowledge of healing, so at first when her clients would complain to her about their problems, she would tell them, maybe I could pray for them. Those ladies began to accept her offers of prayer and became so astonished and amazed at the accuracy and intimacy of the information that she conveyed to them. Those ladies told their friends, and those ladies told their friends, and those ladies told their husbands. And after 10 years of praying for people like that, Miss Laveau was praying for just about every man who was in a position of authority here in New Orleans. The guys would not make important decisions without going to see that lady first. But she never knew how much power she had, because she never broke the confidentiality of anyone that ever came in to pray for him. That's why they kept coming back. Now, when she hears that this guy is teaching about healing, she comes running to his school. But she, along with so many other hairdressers and barbers, responding to this guy's offers of teaching, he actually got overwhelmed with the response and had to get word back home to his niece for her. And somehow his father got his niece and Dupree over there to teach. She ends up becoming the first woman priestess. He was the first woman priest. Maria both studied under him for 11 years before he died. And she and Anne Dupree remained good friends, studying together for the rest of their lives. In that 1995, Lisa both died in 1997. The three X's on these things stand for power, unity, and spirit. What the people who practice really believe is that if they can lift up their prayers, wishes, and desires in words, along with an accurate mental picture of what they want, and can go either directly to God or go through an intercession to God. If God receives it, then he is obliged to bring them out. Now, the intercessor could have been someone of spiritual importance from their culture or another culture. Could have been an angel or a demon. Could have been the spirit of some animal. Could have even been a spirit from the spirit world. We're not familiar with the natural world. They did not particularly care about the means as long as the end was accomplished. With that in mind, those three X's stand for power, unity, and spirit. They were seeking the power of the one true Creator God in union with either the Holy Spirit or some other spirit. But since all the people who practice voodoo are also active in practicing Catholics, the three X's also stand for Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Now, the second thing that the people who practice voodoo believe in, something I call, excuse me, something I call the theory of vibrations. They believe that each individual has their own unique vibration that is distinctly their own. And that if you can tune into a person's vibration, like tuning into a radio station, through that person's vibration, you can gain access to their soul. So number one, gain access to the same familiar spirits that person had access to and achieve the same level of success having their prayers answered. That's why they steal the faceplates off the tombs of the people who had success with you before them, believing that that faceplate contains a trace around that person's vibration, and through that they can eventually gain the same level of success having their prayers answered. They also believe that if they can gain access to your soul, they can use that access to either manipulate your personality in general or your emotions specifically. That will bring us to the five things that are normally associated with voodoo. Those are coins, seashells, rocks, voodoo dolls, and what are called gree-gree bags. Coins and seashells are used when you desire an object. Rocks are used when you desire an action. Voodoo dolls are used to manipulate a person's emotions. Gree-gree bags are used specifically. Voodoo dolls are used to manipulate a person's personality in general. The gree-gree bags are used specifically to manipulate a person's emotions. Okay. Last but not least, every now and then you will see where three X's are circled. That signifies that particular person's prayers have been answered and they have come back themselves and circled those three X's. The other things that you see on these tombs besides those five things I mentioned to you, love offerings, gift offerings, trespass offerings, sin offerings, whatever a person feels like they need to give to clear their conscious contact between themselves and God.
So that's why you have like three pieces of mascara.
And mental. Yeah. Those are just offerings.
So what's this little pink thing down there?
That is a gree-gree bag.
Oh, I thought that was a voodoo doll.
That is the gree-gree bag. The voodoo dolls, they'll look like a little doll.
So what?
What did they
Wait, let me see if we can find one.
It depends. Say like if you got somebody that's angry and you want to make them more calm, right? You might take some object off their person and place it within a gree-gree bag to get their vibration. Then say like take a small vial of water, place that in a gree-gree bag also. Then you imagine that person in your mind being as calm as a sea. Okay? Now they may be angry with everyone all day long, but as soon as they come into your presence, they will get and remain calm. Now here's the catch. They won't know what's going on with you, but you will. Now you see how much power that can give you over them?
Oh, yeah.
But also how easily it can open itself up to misuse and abuse. That's one of the reasons I think today voodoo has such a negative image associated with it in most people's minds, is because Most of the people who practice voodoo today, their hearts are not as inclined in love toward others as they should. And as a result,
Harm them more, like.
right. And that's the reason I think it has to do with it.
So what's the biggest offering that you've seen put up here?
It went from Tulane Hospital
Um,
way past the Louisiana.
Well, I've seen some unique and different offerings. I'll put it that way.
I found some.
I've seen guitar picks. I've seen 5 $100 bills. I have seen several bouquets of roses.
So do people steal these offerings?
Sometimes, yes, we do have some riffraff that come through and try to take the offering out. And sometimes people see me picking up the silver coinage around with things, and they'll think I'm stealing, you know. But I put it all together and I take it over there to the church across the street and drop it off in the collection plate, you know, to keep the riffraff from coming in here, rummage, because they'll tear everything up trying to find the silver on these things, you know.
I understand.
And it's just absolutely, to me, it's just absolutely distressing, you know, because I have to come back and put some semblance of order back to this thing afterwards, you know. And,
So what about the whole thing of dumping liquor on it? Do you see people making liquor offer?
Haiti, sit down in front of this thing, and he had one of those pints of rum, and he took a swig of rum, held it in his mouth, and threw his head back, and rolled his eyes up in his head, sat like that for about a minute, then he blew the rum onto the tune, you know. Then he got up, and the other guy sat down there and did that, and then when the second guy got up, he stood up, and he got a little woozy. Whoa, man, that rum really gets too long, right? I thought that was so funny, man.
All
I
the
cracked up.
stuff.
Yep. Come on, guys, let's not get into
Yeah, that's right. The same X's. The same X's. Same food. That's where.
this tomb right here. This is the tomb of the first African American. This is the first American.
What's the measurement point?
Mr. William C.C. Claiborne. Now, Mr. Claiborne and his children returned together. There were two requirements buried in this portion.
Well, the water.
Number one, you had to die. Number two, you had to be Catholic. So this portion of the cemetery, one of the first integrated places in the city of New Orleans. But Mr. Claiborne and his children are buried here together, but because of this guy's power and position, he got permission to divorce his first wife. And because of his power and position, she got permission to be buried with their maiden name. That's her right there, Myra Clark Gaines. However, this guy's second wife, so he's the reason. I'm going to go. That's someone, some guy, accosting his sister's honor for marrying that guy who was divorced. So he challenged that guy to a duel, which he actually lost. And he was interred here first. She was so concerned about this guy being buried that close to his first wife, she actually had them to bury her standing up so she could keep an eye on that guy that close to his first wife.
How do they stand her up?
Look at the second level of the base. Look how narrow it is on this side, how broad it is on that side. The window of the tree is by design, so she can peep around this tomb and keep an eye on that guy that close to his first wife. They actually put her for an understanding of the small little coffin, but she doesn't have a face on her. So she stand up in an open coffin, keep an eye on that guy. Yeah. And look what she described in the film. What the virtuous is to better world. Think she's not throwing that guy in? Who they tied it on? That's how they need. That's her, lying on the couch, while he bows at her feet, and an angel flies overhead. All I got to say about the lady is, she really put the Mac down on that dude right there. You see that guy way down there by himself? That's Mr. Thomas Layton. Now, Mr. Layton hated crowds. And they hated him so much so that when he heard that this process section was available, the guy hurried in, purchased 1/3 of the space, placed his tomb right in the center of that area, told the church not to bury anyone else close to him, and they happened. But the guy ended up having 12 kids, 11 of them were in there. So he's still around the crowd. He's such a proud of
His family, yes, his
That's
family.
Right. Now, the rest of these platoons that you see back here,
Uh-huh.
these are all the Protestant personnel that fought and died during the Battle of New Orleans. They had no other place to be interred. They're in a tub-like structure that drops down about 3 feet, totally encased in brick with a concrete slab on the top. All except for this guy over here. That's the tomb of a gentleman by the name of Mr. Benjamin Henry Bonneville Latrobe. Mr. Latrobe was the founder of the Professional Architectural Association here in America, which today is called the Architectural Institute of America. And he's also the person that won the lottery to design the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C., but he also designed the Baltimore Cathedral, and he designed a venue here in New Orleans that was called the Louisiana State Bank building. That bank no longer is in existence, but the building itself still stands, and today it is simply called Latrobe's in his honor. The building is used, it's in the French Quarter on the corner of Conti and Royal, and is used today as a wedding reception.
That's so neat.
Let's proceed this way.
All my life I've seen coffins come up. But you're not going to see a coffin float up in a cemetery like this. Look how everything is properly sealed. But on the outskirts of the city, in the lower night walls of
You know, I'm telling you guys about the latest interment in the cemetery.
Yeah.
See that white tomb with the guy in the green shirt? The one that's facing us? That's where the interment happened. That's the tomb of Mr. Bernard Benet Jr.
Not only do you go little running there and play hide and seek, not only do you play with the coffin.
Look underneath the tabletop. You will see 5 pillars and an obelisk. These guys were from the Wales area of Great Britain, and there they were active and practicing Druids as well as Catholics, and they got permission to be buried with Druidic symbols on the tomb. There's the obelisk underneath. There's this symbol at the top, which is a combination Christian Druidic symbol, and there was a pure Druidic symbol here and here that has since been worn away, both from people rubbing for good luck and from the acid rain. See, between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, along the Mississippi River, 20% of all the chemicals produced in the United States are produced in that corridor. And all the trash and effluents from that chemical production comes down on us in the form of acid rain. That acid rain is wreaking havoc
On these tombs,
on
the
all the
marble.
polished marble in all 42 of the above ground cemeteries in and around New Orleans, as well as on all the stone facing on all the tall buildings. And so much so that if you look at the Louisiana State Supreme Court building in the French Quarter today, if you pass by it again,
Yes.
notice the marble in the upper half of the building, all brand new. They recently had to replace it because of that acid rain. Military.
So is there a military station around here?
There's a naval air station all across the river.
Okay.
And I
So
used-
some people.
And I used to do defense contracting on military aircraft. I used to do defense contracting on military aircraft. Now these guys are bucking over. Before that, it was going very slow. Must have some big hotshot up there doing a city tour by helicopter. They do those from time to time. But I want to proceed on the road.
Why did they paint the graves? Just to.
Well, actually, what happened was the guy that developed the tomb restoration program at the University of New Orleans, his name was Mr. Frank Massetti. Mr. Massetti was the first graduate from the University of New Orleans with a PhD in architecture with a special focus in tomb restoration. Well, while working on his PhD, Mr. Massetti redid the whole row of tombs himself by hand. This one and the whole row facing this way, he redid the whole row of tombs himself. And that's why they have those unique colors. Most of the other people, they're pretty much indifferent, they're just like us. But he's the one that painted these pastels and he put all those different.
Oh yeah, I see the colors.
Orange and the yellow and the beige, the peach, you know, that's kind of stuff.
That's really neat.
Yeah. And let's head
Bring
right.
color to the.
Yeah.
Just like a
So
house.
this is like a dead neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
This is the water bowl for my black cat Lucky, who's been catnapped. Yeah. About close to 2 months ago now, we had a cold spell here in New Orleans where it stayed below freezing for about 2 weeks. And Lucky had kind of made herself somewhat famous around the cemetery. She started off with me, and I was the one taking care of her. But the other tour guides started to become, fond of Lucky because she would come up to the tours and she would meow and actually get an ear scratch and a tummy rub, right? Well, anyway, as a result of that, everyone got to like Lucky. She became infamous around the cemetery. When it got cold, when the tour guys took her home, they had to see Lucky since.
Well, look how many Lucky's stuck in a house.
I'm not mad at him for taking home. He could just bring it back. You know, I'm sure she misses doing her job. You know, but she had been doing it for what? She was 3 months when she met me, and you know, when she ingratiated herself with me, and I started taking care of her. Then she was like about a year old. She was done about 8 months. She's an old vet now, you know.
Yeah, she knows all the stories too.
That's right. And people and let me put something down here, and he said, "Take me to the nigga those two," and she took me to the nigga two.
That is so funny.
I don't know how she could do that.
Well, she heard the story. It's a very smart cat. How cute. Taking care of.
The person who took her called me that.
Right. She was a field cat. She had, come up to the cemetery because I have seen her cat. I have seen her cat.
Yeah, she was eating.
Yeah. But once I started feeding her, oh, that was like she stopped. She just like to just watch the birds and stuff. And she could jump up on the top of one of these trees so quick and miss the hits. Because she has this fast. I'll tell you about that over there. She was scared of the Jesus out there. Because she would, she might have raped her ankle and then she would just pop up and come running down the ledge from her stash spot, meowing at people trying to get her ear scratched and tummy rub. And they not knowing that a black cat is in here just scares the crap out of them. Where does that come from?
Especially being black and the
Yeah.
stories of black cats, on
That's
the
right.
dark side.
Yeah. Now, you see these pointy things here along with the shafts? These are supposedly replicas of Spanish lances. The Spaniards believed that a gate style like this with the cross on the front would keep away evil spirits and allow their loved ones to rest in peace. So the Spanish, superstitious French, and Americans did a gate style like this so much so, this became the most popular gate style in the cemetery. The cemetery is considered the most haunted place in America. And French ironwork has a tendency to be more decorative and ornate, like the black one, the silver one, and the rust one down here. And things that are at the corners and at the post points and the midpoints on the side are all supposed to be pineapples, which in French culture represent their cultural traits of generosity and hospitality. These faceplates here, no people are buried here. These are extra faceplates that they've taken out tombs and have come out tombs one reason or another, to be placed down here so that they can be appreciated. And the ironwork in the center, these are all good examples of antique French artistry in ironwork. Notice this ironwork has nothing to do with the cemetery whatsoever.
Yeah.
These are all balcony statues. My particular favorites are the third ones from the ones on both sides. The little dolphins. Now, one lady and I had a discussion. She was saying they were tulips. I was saying that they were dolphins. I said, ma'am, they can be tulips for you, but for me, they're dolphins. Yes. They're dolphins for me because I'm a Pisces. So, I'm into the fish.
Like on the side, you see when they take eyes like that.
Oh, yeah, those. Is it cute?
And see this big one with the big broccoli back there?
Yes.
This one is French. The one with the pyramid type spire there, that one is Spanish. The one with the lady on the cross on it over here, that one is Italian. And the white one in front of this one, and there's a gray one behind it, both of those are Portuguese. Wealthy people of those four nationalities built those beautiful mausoleums for the poor of the nationalities. Those are all publishers. And on the French mausoleum, now they were all built between the establishment of the cemetery in 1789 until about 1810. 1810, I think is the last one. But in 1845, they had a second yellow fever epidemic that wiped out so many French people, they had to add this addition on the side of the French mausoleum for just the babies. That's considered the baby mausoleum. I know it's sad, but that's the truth of the story.
That's the addition on the right.
Yeah, the addition on the right is considered the baby mausoleum. Now watch this bush right here. Maybe you guys can give me some help being from California. I want to get where they was killing these palm fronds right here onto these over here. I want to do a little biological warfare. Okay, these palm fronds are seriously injuring the mammary gland. I saw a lady walking to this thing with her face, and they were extremely sticky.
Yeah, they're sharp.
Yeah, and I tried to put some of that caution tape on them, but the wind keeps going up. It was a stick.
So you wanna?
I want to get whatever's killing those ones that I want to do.
Why don't you just stab the caution tape through it? Like,
It's still broken.
I wouldn't know. You know,
Wait, what if
because
you
what we get is
stab it
when
when tight?
things like this die like
Have you
that,
tried
it's
that?
because of dryness. But
Yeah.
I obviously here is not dry at all.
No. So
It's like the only thing that I could imagine was cut the.
cut them off, but then they go back like this.
I mean, just got the.
I opened some and cut some.
Like I said, they tell you, most of the things
I
that.
stabbed it to and tried to tie it, but I can't get my, trying to get my hands down up in there without getting stabbed.
I would imagine that this was either like frozen by the cold weather, because that's what
Yeah,
does
yeah.
it, or
Yeah, but see, I have to do it from back here, tie it. You know what I'm saying?
and then
Stab it on this side, tie it.
or dryness,
Yeah.
because that's what it is.
Right?
Roundup.
Roundup?
Roundup.
I'm gonna try.
Well, Roundup would kill the entire plant, Scott.
Yeah, well, it's a safety hazard.
Oh, you just want to get rid of the plant?
I mean, I really want to. I really like to do that.
Roundup, but that'll kill everything.
Okay.
Same
I'll
with
tell you
these
about
ones.
Lucky's stash spot. See right there in that corner? And the palm ferns? That's where Lucky used to hang out when it get really, really hot.
Aw,
She would hang
it's
out in that
underneath.
corner. Yeah.
And be
And
cold.
can you imagine her lying on this ledge of people when they're walking this way? Scared
Oh
of
my
the
God,
Jesus.
that would be-
And she's right at eye level. It's like, man, where did this black cat come from? Like it just appeared out of nowhere. This is dedicated to the artillery personnel that fought and died during the Battle of New Orleans. Now they fought this battle 6 miles downriver in a small town called Chalmette, Louisiana. And thank God we defeated the British there, because technically the war had been over for 2 weeks when we fought the battle. It'd been kind of embarrassing to lose a battle in a war that you'd already won. But had we not defeated the British there, they were going to defend the city of New Orleans right across the street from Jackson Square. Those big concrete stairs go up. That point is called the Washington Artillery. These are the actual cannons, the actual ball shots, and actual recoil chains that were set up at the Washington Artillery to defend the city of New Orleans.
Wow.
Yes, they are. Actual real working cannons. Now here's my addendum to this one. I'm telling this story to a guy who was an artillery person during the Vietnam War. The whole while I'm talking to this guy, he's knocking on this thing with his knuckles, right? And when I get to the point about these being actual cannons, ball shots, and recoil chains, the guy jumps up and down and goes, "I knew they were real!" I'm like, whoa, man, it's okay, you know? He got a little emotional there, right? So anyway, this was 2 years ago now. 5 months ago or so, I'm telling the same story to a guy and his wife, who I picked up back here by the Jean-Claude Debris tomb. We're kind of doing a reverse tour thing, coming back this way, right? So when I tell the guy about these being actual cannons, the ball shots, and recoil chains, he looks over at his wife and he goes, "See, I told you." So I assumed that they had been through here already, right? Well, anyway, now I'm telling him the addendum story about the guy from 2 years before. And when I describe how the guy jumps up and down and gets all emotional, he goes, "You met my buddy Joey!" He can't believe it. He goes on to describe the guy to a T, that was his buddy over in Vietnam, and he hadn't heard anything from him since that time. Turns out he had gotten injured about a week before he was supposed to come home, right? Well, he and Joey had hung out, and they had been doing a whole bunch of things, talking about everything, but neither one of them had discussed their home addresses or anything like that, or shared none of that information with one another. So when he got injured and got shipped out, he and Joey lost contact with each other. He hadn't heard anything about Joey in all those years, and then all of a sudden he hears that Joey has passed through here, a few months before him, and he was like so amazed at that, you know. And I
That
was
is
like,
so neat.
it was. And I told the guy, I said, there is no coincidences, you know. Everything is meant to be.
That's
you know?
right.
Let's head on this one.
I don't cook.
Now, every
This is the tune. This is the tune right here, made famous in the movie Easy Rider. This is the point where Peter Fonda climbs up onto the statue with the really crazy poses.
but the reason it's
This is where it happens at. And after that, Mr. Fonda started to concentrate on that lady's feet, especially each second toe, just as an extremely greedy. They really think that Mr. Fonda had a six-pack foot. That movie Easy Rider we're talking about for the younger people, that was the first independent film done in the United States. It only cost the producers
but Easy Rider
$100,000.
stuck into the Rebel Rifle thing, and they used this statue in the movie where Peter Fonda sat on her lap going at bad trips. So apparently they paid money. Money fixes
Only
everything.
cost the producers $100,000. And it was the first film for these actors and actresses. Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson, Dennis Hopper, and Carolyn Black. It was all their first film. Done in 1969. Now you see that little platform over there between the two towers? That's where Dennis Hopper and Karen Black have sex on the top of the tomb during the filming of the movie Easy Rider. And from what I understand, they actually had sex on the top of that tomb during the filming of the movie Easy Rider. And I explained that to one lady, and the lady said, "Sir, that sounds like sacrilege." And I told her, "Ma'am, that probably was, but that's still the most action that those guys have seen in a very long time."
So is this where you walk in through?
This is where I went in the gate, and step up here and look at these diamonds. You're going to see the recessed walkway down here, and that piece of plywood over there.
Oh,
See that?
that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
So you went down there.
I went down there and all the way around on the far side. And now, when they had the thing open, here's the interesting story to this. When they had this thing open, right? When I did go down there, they had this thing open, and I went down there and looked around on the other side, then I came out, right? So later on the same day, two guys from Australia are here, right? And I'm taking them around on a tour. So when we got over here, I pushed the door open, then I take a peep inside instead of having them look at the diamonds, right? But they're on their knees right here looking down. And I don't pay attention, I'm leaning back there against the wall walls, and I look away for some reason or other, and when I look back, when I look back, one of the guys is picked up. Down here in this corner, there was a human thigh bone, yellow with age, leaning against the wall, just leaning by itself. The guy has picked up the thigh bones, and he's standing out here with his buddy on the side of him, and he's passing me the camera and saying, "Hey man, can we take a picture with this?" And I'm like flummoxed, I don't know what to do. So finally I just grabbed the camera and took the photograph, because I mean, that's the quickest way to get him to get the bone back inside, you know?
That's right. It's like you don't steal bones.
Yeah. And so these two guys from Australia have a photograph with the human bone between their shoulders. Around Australia. So, yeah. When the filming of the movie is right, what I want you to notice is, notice that there's no head on the statuary up top. No head on the lady, no head on the little child in her arms, and the little girl inside of her has half her face. That's actually all artistic expression, where the artist is trying to represent everyone and no one at the same time. Am I posing right? Yeah. All right. Where the artist
So
is
were they
actually trying
made
to-
that way?
Yes, they were made that way. It's artistic expression. In the movie Easy Rider, however, they used a prop head on the lady. Dennis Hopper climbs up onto that statue, snatches the lady's head off, sits in her lap with her head in his lap, fires up a joint, smokes half of it, passes the other half down to Peter Fonda, who's taking photographs. Then when they finished, they went into this doorway, got on that recessed walkway, and they were running around inside this thing having a good time. While inside of there, Peter Fonda has a flashback from the Vietnam War. Goes a little bonkers. He goes through the opening where the plywood is, onto the pile of bones inside of this thing, sits down on the top of them, starts throwing bones in the air, allowing them to rain down upon his head. Now, all of that's captured on film. And the church gave him permission to shoot the film. But the church never read the script. So when the church caught wind of what was about to be released, they tried to put pressure on the small independent film company to get them to censor themselves. Well, in order to give in to the church, they took out most of the sex scene between Karen Black and Dennis Hopper. Church could not get them to act right. So the church enlisted the aid of their big brothers. This is the Italian mausoleum. The mafia comes down on a small independent film company, and in the theatrical release version of the movie, the bone scene and the head snatching scene were totally cut out. However, the 35th year anniversary director's uncut DVD version is now available for sale on the internet, and you did not hear that from Walter. I don't need those kind of troubles.
Who
Did
did
not
it?
hear that from
You
Walter.
did not hear that from
No,
Walter. No,
we
you
didn't.
didn't. Okay, okay. Now, again, this is Italian. Red one is Portuguese, and the white one on the side is Portuguese. One with the pyramid type Spanish, Spanish, and one with the big block back there, French. Okay? Now, let's proceed this way.
So wait, what's the movie called again?
Huh?
So what's the movie called?
Easy Rider.
Rider.
Oh, sorry.
Done in 1969, we started. In the top, in the front, back in the storyline. Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper come home from the Vietnam War after he was 19 years old. They live in San Francisco. Then they decide to take themselves a cross-country trip. So they purchase themselves motorcycles. They have stuff that fills tanks with marijuana, and they take off meandering across the southwestern United States. Well, anyway, in Tucson, Arizona, they meet this lawyer guy, and they smoke a joint with him. Well, the guy decides to leave his law practice, puts a football helmet on, jumps on the back of one of the guy's bikes, and they continue to take off meandering across the southwestern United States. They cross from Arizona into New Mexico, from New Mexico through Texas, and somewhere between crossing the Louisiana state line and arriving in New Orleans, Jack Nicholson gets shot and killed, is shot in the back by a big here in Louisiana, and he dies on the side of the road. And when that happens, those guys rummage his pockets, take all of his money, decide to come down here to New Orleans to celebrate his life. Well, they start off by going down Bourbon Street getting really, really drunk, right? And then they end up at this venue called the House of the Rising Sun. They rent the services of these two ladies. That was brought out. But they don't engage in anything in the venue. They come out of the venue and they go back down Bourbon Street getting really drunk some more. Then they end up at this cemetery where they jumped the front gate and came in. Once they got inside, all four of them took some acid. Now they're tripping out on acid, and that's where the Peter Fonda thing begins on the statue around here. That's where the same thing happens between Dennis Hopper and Karen Black. That's where Dennis Hopper climbs up here and does the weird thing up here. And that's where Peter
So they were
Fonda
high?
They were at it. And that's why Peter Fonda flips out with the post-traumatic stress syndrome thing inside there and goes on to the pile of bones. It really goes on. And that was all the storyline for Easy. Great film, too. Great film. You gotta see it.
You
Right?
have to see it, Patrick.
Yes. Now we proceed on this way.
What? What? Wait.
What's the question?
Can we wait till Patrick's older to watch it?
No, Patrick.
They
How old are you, Patrick?
13.
Oh, you're old enough. Heck, when I was 13, I'm not going to even tell you the things I was doing. My mother knew she spanked my tail twice. See this guy right here, Ian Hardcastle?
Yeah.
This guy here, the newest tomb in the cemetery before Nicolas Cage and his production company built that. Mr. Ian Hardcastle worked as an administrator for the Archdiocese of New Orleans for like 27 years. As administrator before he retired. But as a result of that, he has an opportunity to be interred in this our oldest cemetery in New Orleans. He got a chance to have this tomb built with perpetual care for a cost of only $14,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's something that whole remains of between 150 and 270. Yep. And this is the tomb that Nicolas Cage and his production company had built in the cemetery, where they're getting ready to succeed to the third installment of National Treasure here in our cemetery. This
And
is
is it
actually-
really have people?
No, nobody's interred in there yet. Just a brand new tomb. And that's actually going to be the clue in the movie. Omnia ab uno, which according to my 9th grade Latin stands for all from one. And about 6 months ago, Mr. Cage was standing right here, and I was passing through there with some people, and I had to do a double take because the guy now has short red hair. When I looked and I went, "Hey, you're Nicolas Cage." And he looked at me and he went, "Yes, I know." And I said, "Okay, Mr. Cage, you got me on that one." I said, "Mr. Cage, you have so much written in our newspapers and magazines about you being interred in a brand new pyramid shaped tomb in this our oldest cemetery in New Orleans. Are you going to be interred here?" Mr. Cage looked at me and smiled and said, "Man, of course not. This is all just hypothetical." He said, "But we're going to donate this mausoleum to the Archdiocese of New Orleans to do with whatever they will after they complete shooting our scenes." And this tomb right here has the oldest interment that I knew of in the cemetery. This guy right here was interred in 1740.
Wow, and it's brand new now.
Well, they have perpetual care on it.
Yeah.
So it's not the oldest tomb in the cemetery, it's just the oldest interment that I know of in the cemetery. The oldest tomb is over there toward the center. And also, I'm supposed to show you guys maybe the one lady was buried. We bypassed the tomb and we back to show you that. And I also want to show you the Queen's tomb. So let's do the Queen's one here. clothes. Yeah. But the fake one has a bunch of stuff in front of it.
And stick with gum.
This is the real one, right? Yep. And I fill this thing up with water and it still keeps falling over. Those things don't have a ball enough base on them. They're too top heavy. They get too top heavy.
Voodoo goes good.
Excuse me.
What did you ask about voodoo?
Voodoo good. That's what.
Voodoo is just a mysticism of spirituality. It's not the mysticism of spirituality that's good or evil. It's the people that practice it. Can voodoo be used for good? Yes, it can. Can it be used for evil? Yes, it can. It just depends on the word.
Come again?
They have a rescue station here in the water. Yeah, that's one of the dolphin helicopters. Yeah, those one of the helicopters that go out and rescue people.
Was that a national grave?
Yes, that was an actual grave.
And it just got turned down by someone?
It actually, that's what happens when they deteriorate. If you don't take care of your tomb, they deteriorate down to nothing. This is what happens when you deteriorate. This is what they can go down to. Now, a lot of those loose bricks from this, they will fall off. Those were stored down there on the side of the gate right there where the statue was. That's what's stored down there. But look at how much deterioration that Mr. Rose tomb is showing. I stacked all these bricks on the top because they're all loose on the side. They're coming apart. Okay. And then people push them apart. They put things between them and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But
Well, perhaps the people should be taking care of their
actually, our organization, Cemetery Preservation Society, this is one of the tunes that's going to be on our next series of contracts.
Yeah, because, it's like,
This is going to be one, Jean-Claude Dupre's tune. It's going to be on the next series of contracts that we have. Those are tunes we're talking about.
But where you're going to erase all the markings, though?
Well, they get erased periodically from time to time.
Oh, really?
They have to, yeah. And see over here, this white tomb with the grass growing on the back of it? That's the political fraud tomb that I was telling you about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, first African American mayor. Let's go take a look at that.
So,
Yeah, question?
oh,
And so, like, see those beads that are placed up there?
Yeah.
I placed those beads up there to give them away for people from your talk. Would you like a pair of beads?
oh no, that's okay.
Would you like a pair of beads?
Doesn't want a pair of beads from.
Okay, I'll give you some off the table.
He's like, no, that's okay.
This was the earlier work. This is later work, and that's it's a little bit hard to tell the later work.
well, it's pretty.
They use special additives in the mortar to maintain a more authentic,
they-
antique look to
yeah.
the tomb itself. And incidentally, see this guy right behind here, Paul Morphy? 1873, this guy was designated the very first ever world chess champion. He was the last world chess champion from the United States until 1968, when he came from New York City, became the next world chess champion by definition.
Wow.
And this is that fake one that was telling you.
But he
why
still
do they
has
put
luck
fake
with
ones
presents.
Can I understand?
Whoa.
So why do they have fake ones?
Well, this, remember, is all political ploy perpetrated by the son of the guy buried next door.
Yeah, so
See,
they,
yeah, next door is the tomb of the first African-American mayor of New Orleans, Ernest Nicholas Morial. And Mr. Morial served as mayor from 1878 till 1986. For 3 years after getting out of office on Christmas Eve 1989, while visiting his girlfriend's house and having sex, the former mayor came and went at the same time. The girlfriend called the wife. The wife sent the two sons to the girlfriend's house, Jock and Mark. They put Dad's body in the trunk of the car, drove Dad away so the Dad's reputation could be saved.
Public coffee.
Yes. Now, 3 years after Dad dies, one of those sons, Mark, becomes the third African-American mayor of New Orleans. Mark serves from 1992 until 2000. During Mark's first term, Mark had the family tomb next door, which used to face in the opposite direction, turned around You know, it's the first new concrete around the base, perpetual care placard. They're doing his second term. You have this placard placed here, but you have to stoop down to read, and then as soon as you rise up, right eye level, what catches your eye. Wonderful placard about Dad with a photograph, and wonderful write-up of all of Dad's great accomplishments. So Dad's gaining associated fame from